Hello, I am happy to report that our bucket list trip to hike the TMB was a success. What is the TMB? The Tour du Mont Blanc, or the Trail Mont Blanc, is a roughly 106-mile hike or trail around Mont Blanc. It goes through Switzerland, Italy, and France. The TMB is widely considered one of the top 3 or 4 most beautiful 100-mile hikes on the planet. I became inspired to go do this after qualifying to enter the lottery for the UTMB 100-plus mile foot race on basically nearly the same trail. It is kind of, in my mind, like the Super Bowl of trail running, of ultramarathon. It's definitely the most iconic, mythical, and prestigious ultra in the world. Since our daughter lives in London, I believe that made it a little bit easier for her to help interact with the places that provided lodging and so forth. And the tour guide book was something one of us six hikers always carried it with us on the trail. And then we had at least one hiker who had all trails on their phone to help with navigation. And I picked up, I guess on day 5 in Courmayeur, a buff that included a map of the entire trail. So, for example, if I want to remember the name of the off-the-grid refugio, Bonatti, that overlooked the peak of Mont Blanc, was hydro-powered, off-the-grid, supplies is delivered a couple times a month by helicopter. I had that information right there on my head in case I forgot the name of the town we were ending that day. My goal was to take it nice and easy and really soak in the beauty of the place. I took lots of photos and just took a very relaxing pace. So oftentimes the other people in my group were either ahead of me or behind me. Rarely were we alone on this trail. Why is it so popular? It was near perfection, in my opinion. None of the 11 stages or hiking days were a letdown. It was just absolutely spectacular every single day. I found the trip to be both exhilarating and completely exhausting. It's not a beginner's hike. The holy crap views every day were amazing. Glaciers, waterfalls, lakes, rivers, lots of bridges, beautiful villages, cities. There were no bears, no snakes, no mountain lions. So you had all these incredibly beautiful things to focus on, but not much to worry about. There was nothing really trying to bite you or sting you. I don't recall ever seeing a single spider web the entire 11 days of hiking over the 12-day adventure. Temperatures are expected to be in the 40 to 80 degree range. Of 11 days of hiking, we only had rain 2 of the days, of any substance. The snow, ice, and streams were manageable. The flowers and the foliage were just breathtaking, just incredible. The season for hiking the TMB is only about 2 to 3 months. So it's super crowded. There's a flow to it to where often people hiking the same direction we are may have started about the same time we did, and you tend to make some friends out there on the trail. And the people who are doing it the opposite direction, you tend to hit those people in a cluster about midday. So there's just a flow to it. A rhythm that was really enjoyable. There's a rich history of the whole Alps area, the architecture, the ruins, It's just incredible. The accommodations were all unique. There is a lot of people camped instead of staying in indoor lodging. We used hotels, Airbnbs, and the refugios. I think some people referred to those as huts, which would be an understatement because they were the refugios were oftentimes hundreds of year old buildings that were much nicer than a hut. So we got hot showers generally and had a pretty comfortable place to stay, even if it was dorm style. With minimal planning, we were able to eat all plant-based, no problem. At some of the lodging, the vegan meals were incredible. Other times a little bit underwhelming, but it was always doable. Of the hundreds, if not thousands of other hikers, I was definitely the only one that I was aware of hiking the entire TMB in sandals, super lightweight minimalist sandals too. Because I was rightfully a little bit nervous about whether or not the minimalist sandals would get me all the way through the TMB, I carried a pair of Xero Scrambler low trail shoes the entire way. So to do that, to help make that easier, I bought the largest fast pack ultimate direction cells. It's a 40 liter. This thing opens up to be a pretty huge backpack, but it's kind of a cross between a regular backpack and a runner's vest. You can run in it. I opted to only shop for a fast pack that would have the fluid bottles up front for quick access. Good news, I never once needed to wear the trail shoes, and carrying just one ultra lightweight trekking pole was perfect. After 2 full days, long hikes in the Xero Z-Trail sandals, with no socks, I was realizing I might be able to pull off the entire hike in the sandals. On day 3, I got confident enough to pull the sandals off, get into a glacier cold water stream, cool the feet, and then hike on some trails that were mostly dirt and grass. Probably did a mile barefoot that day, and it felt wonderful to get kind of the earthing and that extra connection to the trails, the place, the mountain, and just a little bit different workout for the feet. One mistake I made with the sandals, realized late on day 4 that my feet were getting very sunburnt. Fortunately, it didn't go too far. I was able to protect my feet on our day 5 rest day, and I wore shoes and sunscreen. After that day, there was just enough cloud cover and shady areas, and with sunscreen, I was able to salvage the whole idea of hiking the TMB and the Xero Z-Trails. On day 1, coming out of Les Ouches, where we started the hike, as soon as we got onto the mountain, I realized I needed to snug these laces down even tighter, and if we got into rain or stream crossings, I realized I needed to snug them up even a little bit more. The day before our first section of trail that was going to have some snow and ice, a couple of hikers had warned me that crampons were suggested, and there's no way to attach crampons to the sandals. Not that I have crampons, but luckily I was able to get through all the snow and ice and cold stream crossings without any issues. It ended up that there was a lot more snow out on the trail in mid to late July than I suspected, but the air temperature was warm enough that even in the chilly, damp, high altitude sections, my feet were fine. I put gloves on a few times and an extra hat, but really doing the TMB in sandals without socks felt really good. My feet and legs got an incredible workout. It was actually a very nice break from all the ultra running and running training doing very little running that 3.5 weeks, mostly hiking. I think my body benefited greatly from that. Between that and I'd say a lack of sleep due to almost every night being in different lodging, kind of the excitement of it all, and sleeping in different rooms with different people. It just there definitely was interrupted sleep, and the trail was even more strenuous than I expected. Now, I certainly do not expect most people to ever even consider hiking the TMB in a pair of sandals. One of the things that was a little bit odd was as we came into the lodging in the evening, there was always a place to pull our dirty boots off and put them in the basement or out back or on a porch type area. And that was where I saw several people from all over the world wearing their Xero Z-Trails or other Xero sandals or some lightweight shoes as their evening wear. So that was pretty cool to see how internationally popular the Xero products are, especially the Z-Trails. And I would highly recommend that if you're into any of these long hikes, that this specific sandal be your evening wear. When your toes are hanging out and the feet are almost bare on a trail that difficult, it kept me super focused. So I only had one time where my left foot was in the grass and there was sort of a drop off, and I basically fell down. I would say it was a very gentle, controlled fall. But after 107, 108 miles of difficult hiking, to only have one fall, that was good. I didn't have a single scratch on my feet, no blisters, really just no problems. At the lodging, they really didn't want us inside there with our hiking gear, so I just simply made an effort to keep these as clean as possible, especially at the end of that day's hike. Because the staff was super busy, lots of hikers would kind of come and go from the place at the same time. There were group meals. They didn't have time to be worried about whether or not I was walking around the place in my hiking gear. And both my daughter and my wife did all their TMB miles in Xero minimalist boots. Hiking the TMB in sandals with no socks was a good conversation starter, so I had some fun with that. There were some people who wanted photos of me doing the hike in sandals or getting pictures with them. So that was fun. And most people ignored it, honestly. As I saw people coming towards me, most people just didn't pay attention to the feet. It was mostly eye contact and so forth. But it was kind of funny to hear my daughter say, she was generally hiking behind me, that I was getting a lot of looks of disapproval. Once we were off the TMB, oftentimes I would wear the ultra lightweight Xero Sunrise travel shoes or the Xero Scrambler trail shoes. One of the really cool things that happened on day 3 was when we hit the high point of that day with our first up close high altitude view of Mont Blanc, like right there. We realized that there was a big race going on. They called it the GTC. It was the Grand Trail Courmayeur out of Courmayeur, Italy. And it was, I believe, up to 1,800 runners. There was a 100K race, a 55K race, and I believe a 30K race. So I think we were seeing the 100K runners and the 55K runners. And that evening where we stayed, our refugio was the Elisabetto, and that was also an aid station for the race. So that was really cool to see all the runners and kind of fantasize about running the race someday, and to chat with them, cheer them on, to see them coming in for their aid station. And so the next day I found a couple souvenirs, the sweepers for the race, missed a couple items. There were so many special moments. Of course, it was incredible to do this adventure with one of our 3 daughters and my wife. One day we got up close with an ibex up at a high altitude, foggy, snow-covered mountain area. Highly recommend the 11-day hike. We did talk to a lot of people doing it faster than that, but as my daughter kind of half joked, you can do it in 6 or 7 days if you hate yourself. I recommend bringing a good poncho. That was one of my mistakes. I got pretty soaked one of the days and kind of fell behind my group. Keep a dry bag in your backpack or your vest. That's just a common thing people do, because when it rains a lot. Sleeping bag liners are expected of the hikers to be used at really all the lodging on the trail. And beware of the electric fences. I don't think I've been shocked by an electric fence for holding livestock in since I was probably a teenager. So I got that feeling a couple times. There were just so many things to enjoy. The beautiful stone structures and the slate roofs and the buildings that are put together to last for centuries. Occasionally there were caves. I know we went into at least one cave. The ruins were interesting. Scenic farms, the cowbells were just incredible to hear the real herds of cattle and goats and sheep with the bells. Be aware of mountain bikers. Occasionally there'd be some mountain bikers going fairly quick on the trails. And on the topic of doing the hike anti-clockwise from Les Ouches, you can also do it from other places like Courmayeur is a popular start-finish area, but Les Ouches is the most common place to start and finish. If you're doing that on day 10, there's the infamous ladder section. It's the shortest number of miles in one day, but it's an extremely challenging section with lots of metal ladders and rails. It's, a mistake there could be fatal. So if you do it counterclockwise or anti-clockwise, as they say, it's, I believe, safer. And if you do it that way, day 11 does also include some metal ladders and some steep climbs on rocks, but it also includes over 5,000 feet of tricky descent. And most people are not going to want to do over 5,000 feet of climbing on their very first day on the trail. So if you ever have an opportunity to get to hike the TMB, do so. The people you meet out there from all over the world, it's just incredible. Bonjour.